Alright, welcome, Jensen Vars here. In this video I'm gonna continue to play session number 3 of Symbaroum. I moved to digital format into tabletop simulator just to make it a bit more easy to watch for you, I hope, and why not a bit fun for me as well. So our characters are somewhere in a tribe. If you've been following the last chapters, they were investigating the death of an Ambrian knight who belongs to the Queen Corinthia, and this knight died in a ritual, apparently taken care, or let's say developed by the shamans of this tribe. And as our characters arrived to this tribe, it was all razed down. There was nothing there, everything was empty, and there's some spiritual projections that helped our characters learn a bit about what happened so far, which was related to a river that overran the tribe very recently, and it matched the time of the ritual itself. So probably a cultist or shamanistic ceremony did this thing. And in the visions that Goltas, our goblin, went through, he learned that it was the knight himself who was part of this ritual, and it is apparently something related to lifting a curse. That's all we know. Our characters are moving forward. They found a cursed sword, very likely belonging to the knight who's dead, and that opens up to more questions. In the new totem folding machine I'm trying, this is the preview of version 7. I've got a plot track here. I'm putting myself somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to take over from here approximately in order to move in. Here I have the basic shit filled in. I've got some active leads like Shaman Heiraku having disappeared, a ritual that destroyed the village, as I just said. Noble spirits are saying something or trying to say something. There's a cursed sword, and that the knight Achian was cursed is also a lead. With that said, I'm gonna proceed with the next scene. Our characters were trying to figure out how to deal with this sword, the cursed sword, in order to take it as evidence to the chief back in the village. I would say that the goblin Goltas was looking for leathers, maybe by hunting some animals, in order to bring up back something to wrap up the sword and avoid touching it after the suggestion of the sorceress Hydra. He eventually comes back with some leathers, and they begin folding up this sword in order to lift it up without touching it with their hands. Everybody's focused on there. I think Hydra is the one paying most attention to any side effects, while Rother is looking at the surroundings. So this is going to be the next scene proposal. As per the new rules, I have to do a modified proposal for it to count a progress here. So I'm running a modified proposal as I'm describing the scene and what I'm thinking it's going to happen, which is like they're going to wrap up this cursed sword. I roll a 10. That is, make them work hard for it in the modified proposal list. What happens as they begin to wrap up the cursed sword, the sword begins to emanate fearful energy. Goltas is trying to wrap it up, but it begins to emanate like a pushing force, makes the sword stay away, or like push itself away from Goltas, and it's like rolls around on the ground. Goltas turns around and says, "What was that? What is the meaning of that?" "That's definitely not good," she says. "What happens?" I'm trying to grab this damned sword, but it's not pushing away itself from me. Try to be faster. It's just a sword, there's nobody moving it. And Goltas is gonna attempt a quick roll to see how things go. His quick is 13. That's a 19, that's a failure, so Goltas tries to stay quiet and still and make a sudden jump to grab the sword. But as fast as he is, the sword just pushes away itself as if repelled by magnetic force just right coming from him. That thing might be alive. Trying to think what the characters would do here right now. But I am going to use the scene unfolding machine to see if a GM emulator would intervene. Give me a second. And here's the scene unfolding machine, which I'm planning to review, by the way. So there's this GM emulation. I'm gonna roll a D100 on it. That's a 24. 24 stands for describes an additional location, element, or detail to the scene. So as the sword moves forward, we arrive, and Goltas is following it. We've got to something special about the location. Let's roll a feature in the game unfolding machine. 11. Destroyed, ruined, difficult to traverse. The sword falls itself in a swampy dump of water, and it submerges. Goltas hurries up to grab it before it goes deep in this dump of water. And then I'm gonna roll a next scene prompt by advancing the plot. I think this might be interesting. Number 1 here in this plot track means that we need to run a complication. Promise I did not have that planned. Let's see which complication is that. 5 is something related to PC's items or necessities. As Goltas approaches the swamp, a hand comes up. It's a skeleton hand, and it tries to grab him. Goltas needs to roll quick to see if he can dodge this. He rolls a 4, which is a success. He dodges this, but the thing was not trying to grab Goltas himself. It grabs Goltas' pouch of water and it steals it away from it. What the? And he just readies his great sword and stands back, a bit shocked by the situation. At the same time, Rother is looking from behind, protecting the area. And she is trying to... The sorceress, I guess she's gonna try to identify what's going on here with some of her mystical powers. Let me check. She's got sorcery. I'm gonna enable her to do some resolute tests to see if she learns something about what's going on. That's a 20, that's a bad failure. So as Hydra is focusing on trying to identify what is going on with the sword, she gets repelled herself psychically. So she's get like stunned on her head and pushed back, almost falling. Rother catches to hold her. Are you alright? Yes, I think it's better if we just leave the sword behind and leave it alone. Isn't it dangerous to leave that sword in that swamp over there? It is more dangerous if we try to grab it. Goltas, come back. And Goltas says, confused, are you sure this is a good idea? Yes, it is. The sword is beyond our grasp. We need to think of another plan. I think I've seen something here in the water. It might be skeletons. And I think it makes total sense to bring up a fun and interesting battle here from the swamp. 1 second. Alright, so the swamp is here and Goltas is standing over there as a huge skeleton comes up from the water. On the back, Rother and Hydra, the sorcerers, are just realizing what is going on. I don't think he provides traps would work on water. So he's gonna ready his short sword and come to the aid by moving twice up to this part. Next, the skeletons. These ones are raising and moving closer. And this one is gonna attack. I'm gonna roll a composition to see for a twist. 17, that's can hide, disappear, or ambush. So essentially what's gonna happen is that this guy is gonna submerge down in the water and disappear for a while. I mean, Rother managed to see him just in time, but for now, it's not going to be anywhere seen. I'm gonna flip him just to represent that we don't know. And next, Hydra's gonna come closer. Let me check her powers. Hydra's got a desecrating rite, that's a ritual, bent will, revenant strike, 1 + 1d4 to someone's damage. So but let me guess that will not work on undead either. Bend will needs a silver ring. Can seize control of a creature's will by making a successful resolute test. Doesn't say it has to be living. So I guess she's gonna try to control the dead. At least the one that's gonna attack Goltas. That's a resolute against the monster's resolute. The resolute is probably somewhere like 8. So that's I think it's just a -1. For the difference, let me check. Her resolute is 15, so that's a 14 limit for Hydra. She succeeds, so she can manage. This monster is skeleton bench will. Let me see again, what does it do? Seize control of a creature's will by making a successful resolute test. The character has mastered the use of its weapon, so when an attack misses a target, the character may instead use the return swing in an attempt to hit the target again. The character makes a new attack roll which deals 1d8 if it hits. So that I should have done in the previous one where he missed the first time. But that's fine, that's me learning. It's gonna attack this one here. And it does. So it's a d12 dice. I'm gonna color it this way. I think these things will have like hit points somewhere around 12, which is at 12 here, so this thing is dead. Back into the water as Golta smashes the thing. With a strong of 15 he succeeds, so he hits with a hard smashing 12. That's a 10, so this thing is 2 out of 12 on its hit points, so it smashes a few bones out of it, but the thing turns around as it sees the threat from the water. They begin to be overwhelmed, and they begin walking even underwater or half underwater towards the characters. This with the bent will is still on hold on its own spot. We've got to go. And he's gonna smash the last skeleton before he leaves. That's a hit. So unless it's a 2 or less, and that kills the thing. I'm sending this one back to water. Come on, let's go. What about the sword? There's no time for it. I have to go. And that's how the characters decide to flee the battle. As these skeletons approach the coast. And Rother takes a last look to see what do they do. Do they follow or do they stay where the sword is? So let's see, what do they seem to prioritize? I'm gonna ask a subjective question, so the column in the middle. That's a 1. We don't know, we can't tell. So some of them seem to be surrounding around the sword, others seem to come out of the water. So Rother cannot tell with enough clarity if these things are even attracted to the fallen, cursed sword we are looking after. I don't think there will be any trouble to escape. So I'm gonna, in any case, proceed to the last scene of the confrontation stage by doing a modified proposal. The characters escape and head back to the tribe of the cursed ritual. Modified proposal, that's a 9, make it more complicated. As the characters head back to the cursed tribe, somewhere here, what can make it even more complicated? So I guess, since I don't know what can it make it more complicated, it could be so many things. I had to think about it, but what can it make a return more complicated is simply, and always go for the simplest solution, is that more undeads appear on the way. And these undead don't make it so easy to come back to the village. So I guess we were somewhere around here, following the trace of the river, and now there are some undead blocking the way back. How many of them are they? I guess plenty. They're coming back from the ground. Could that have been the sword? Is the sword doing this? We cannot say, and we don't have the time. We have undead behind us, not it up front. We might need to take the forest. That isn't usually the best idea. It isn't. But let's hide and take a detour. Alright, since the characters are taking a detour, that's how the resolution begins. And I'm gonna go into the forest and try to avoid them. Get into the forest, and at first I'm gonna check how well they do in discreet. The best discreet is by Rother. It's gonna try roll 12 or less. That's an 11. That means they managed to find an entrance in the forest that seems to be walkable and not a swampy area. And with that, I'm gonna head with a scene random prompt, a scene beat at that time. That's a 2. The 2 is to play a scene filler catalyst. And the 2 for the catalyst is consequences of past deeds. So what did we do in the past? Of many things, but the last recent thing we did is to leave the cursed sword behind. And I think that's gonna bring some troubles in here. What kind of troubles? I don't know. But we get into the forest. And let me think a little bit. Let me bring a fantasy GMA card. That's giving me a catalyst of an apparent haunting. A haunting. Alright. So what we see as soon as we enter the forest, is a sort of ghostly visions that are pursuing us, and they all seem to carry with them the cursed sword that Goltas failed to grasp. I'm gonna change this and add this in the list of active leads. I'm gonna put here haunted ghosts with sword as an active lead in here. And I'm gonna ask a question to see if it's all of them that they can see this or not. So is it all of them they can see this? The answer is yes, all of them can see these ghosts traversing and coming on and here and there in the forest. I wonder what are they doing. I'm gonna roll an action to get some inspiration for what they are doing. 85. They are searching for something. Searching for what? 97. For welfare. So we don't know exactly, but they seem to be seeking something. Do they ignore us? That's a 2. Subjectively speaking, apparently not. They seem to be reactive and repulsive to the PCs, and particularly Goltas, for some reason. Maybe he's touched, who knows. Rother says, Hydra, can you communicate with them? It's not safe for us to be here. I know. I'm trying to figure out what do they mean. Let's roll a discrete test for Hydra. She's got a resolute is better. 15 or less might yield something. That's a 9, so we do learn something. Let's roll another GMA card. An item misidentified. That doesn't give me much. Let me take a look at the plot discoveries from Game Unfolding Machine. I'm gonna roll for a clue type and a useful finding. Clue type 7 stands for drawing a painting visual form. And 2 is to reveal enemy weaknesses or vulnerabilities. Alright. So Hydra's gonna focus on trying to make sense of what these ghosts are doing exactly. What are they screaming and annoying about? Let me know, by the way, in the comments. I make a parenthesis if you have any ideas of how you come up with like plot progressing discoveries. Coming back, she makes a reading of these ghosts and they seem to be afraid of the cursed sword being awakened. They are actually escaping, and now she realizes that the ghosts are mostly going in the same directions as the PCs, away from the swamp we were before and toward the forest. Since Goltas was the last person to try to approach the sword, the ghosts think that he's the guilty one, so the ghosts, the spectral beings, are uncomfortable with him being there. Hydra's gonna say, it's not a good idea that we stay in the forest, not with you, Goltas. They seem to be blaming you for what you've just tried. What I just tried? I just tried to... Whatever, what do you suggest? Well, if we get out of the forest, we're gonna be eaten by undead, so the forest ghosts seem to be better to me, Hydra. I don't think that's a good idea, but I cannot think of another option either. I suggest let's draw a path through the forest and try to make a cut towards the tribe. Let's look for a way. I'm gonna roll Rother's cunning to see if he can figure out a way. to go back. I think that shouldn't be hard for him, so I'm giving him +2. He rolls 12. That's just a success. So they make a shortcut toward the tribe and eventually make it through the forest. But I'm gonna make another scene prompt in between throughout the forest before we go back. That's the next scene in the plot track is a 2, so that means the next one is gonna be a filler catalyst scene. So I'm gonna roll a catalyst. That's a 9. 9 is reveal a faction's controversy. Whose faction, I wonder? It can be the ghosts, or it can be the undead. So is it the ghosts controversy? It's a 5. It's a weak no, so it's not exactly about the ghosts, but similar. Maybe around the spirit. So we're gonna make an important discovery at this point. We're gonna go to the factions generator in game unfolding machine to chase a driving focus for any faction related to the undead. We've got an 8. 8 stands for transformation. 6 deeply to transform the world in their ways. So what we learn is that the spirits are trying to take over this cursed tribe after the ritual that was developed in it. And essentially they are looking for ways to find a channeling portal throughout the tribe with the strength of the cursed sword in the swamp, awakening the undead to come back and take over it. This is noticed because when the characters return to the tribe, it's swarming of spirits and visions from the beyond. For the very lords of Ambria, what do we see? That's not good, right? That's definitely not good. It isn't. It isn't. I'm gonna roll a random active lead to confirm one of them. I think that's a way to proceed the story forward. And I'm going to move the sticky point next. We've got a 6 that stands for noble spirits are trying to say something. So what I make up of this is that some of these spirits are trying to communicate with my characters, and one of them in particular, an Ambrian knight, approaches one of the communicating ghosts with the characters. The undeads are swarming the area, and one of them come and say something. Let's see what's their contribution. NPC interaction general contribution is a d20 here. That's a 1. Points out to the location of a powerful object. So in essence, this ghost is gonna approach the characters and say, you should free us. You should not let those of my kind take over your realm. This is a war in the plains, and you can help us defeat it. Who are you? Asks Rother. You can call me Loras. I am friend of your dead knight, cursed Ahiam. What happened to him? It was too late for him. So I'm gonna make a very important plot question. Did Ahiam the knight had good intentions or bad ones? That's an 8. That makes it a yes. That's a good intentions. He took a curse on his shoulders to try to delay an imminent transpassal of the undead to the living world. But it wasn't enough. One of his belongings was kept here, and the ritual did not fully achieve its commitment. Now I wonder if we'll have to go back and pick up the sword, or if this is some other artifact. But it's gonna be the sword. It's the only thing we saw. It has to be that. Let me guess, says Goldas. It is the sword. The cursed sword that we just saw pushed by the river down to the swamp. That is indeed. So it wasn't me, the one who awoke the dead. Well, it looks like you helped. You pushed it a little bit into the right direction, it seems. So, we need to recover that sword. Let's see what he answers. 4. On the interaction oracle, 4 is... No, I think not. No. It is definitely the sword, but I don't think it matters whether you take it or not. What you need to do is find a way to dry out such swamp, to put it out of the water and hide it forever. Alright, that makes it slightly more easy, I guess. How do we dry a swamp? That is up to you to figure. The physical world is not ours to intervene with. But hurry up. It's your last chance. And I guess we have a sorceress here, so she could prepare some sort of ritual. She's got actually this rite called desecrating rite. So, and she can corrupt the location. So if she can do that, she could corrupt the swamp in other ways, speaking. So we need to figure out how to perform a ritual. And I guess we're gonna have lots and lots of trouble. Let me check. And it gives 1d6 temporary corruption to those who perform said rituals, and if they persisted trying to get information with rituals, they will also suffer 1d6. Alright, that doesn't sound too good. But that's why the Sorcerer's Hydra is here for. The question is, what will she need? To take on with this, so it's clear that she needs a weapon. And the sword is down deep in the swamp, so we need another weapon. The question is whose or which weapon. So Hydra's gonna say, if we can recover the weapon, or somehow locate it, I think we know where it is. So maybe we can work out some sort of ritual, but we need protection. Can you help us, protect us from the undead, those of your kind? Asks Hydra to the ghosts, and the ghosts responds with a 5, which is doesn't know. I don't know if I can help you because I don't know what's going to haunt you, but I will do my best. If that means sticking the world of the living to the living, it is worth the effort. Thank you. Let's get to working. I'll need certain ingredients. Let's do it. Sure thing. So Hydra's gonna mention a list of resources and ingredients she needs to prepare the ritual. And she says, I could use the rune stone we couldn't decipher earlier to empower the ritual. After all, this place is magically active. But we need to deal with the undead. That I can help with. So I'm gonna pick up a map for this situation. 1 second. Alright, so here we are, and the Hydra is going to focus her might into the ritual area as Rother and Galtas look for the ingredients that Hydra is needing. So they will need to cover her. Galtas is the fighter, so he's gonna take care of the incoming undead with the help of the ghost, and Rother is gonna look. So in the first round, Galtas is gonna actually try to hold the undead back, and I'm gonna resolve this more cinematically than not. I don't want to spend a long combat here, but as long as Galtas succeeds one strong roll, he's gonna keep the undead away. He rolls a 3, that's a success. So Galtas and the ghost focus on fighting the undead, while Rother is going to focus on looking for those ingredients, which are like plants and insects and other things around, which is not easy, but let's see if he can roll a good vigilant test to look for those things. That's 14, that's a failure. So he's gonna take a long time as the others keep on the fight. And to fast forward this a little bit, I think Rother will have to head back to the swamp and fill in a pouch of water from that swamp that Hydra needs. That's the most difficult part of his task. So he's gonna head out back to the swamp area of the forest where we were before. He's going to try to keep things quiet and not be spotted. On himself, he shouldn't have trouble hiding. So let's see, he rolls a 15. That's a pretty bad roll, but also to fast forward this, he's gonna get hurt on the way, but he's gonna make it eventually. So he's gonna be spotted by some undead that strike him and cause him harm. But one of the next scene on his side, where's the, I think I lost, yeah. One of the troubles that he's gonna encounter in one of the future scenes is an 8, the scene prompt number 8, that means a story trouble, which is a number 2, and the story trouble 2 is the undead. So he's gonna find one of those big undead warriors that are leading the pack, and it's the actual undead, in this case a large skeleton, who is wielding the very cursed sword. But Hydra said she doesn't need a sword for the ritual, she just needs a sample of the water from the swamp. Rother is gonna evade the fight as much as he can by rolling a quick test. Let's see how he will do. He's got a quick of 13. That's a 19, so he fails pretty badly. That means eventually Rother will end up being killed and never return. So he failed the roll of stealth roll. He failed to find the components in time, and when he went for the swamp, he faced a big, large skeleton warrior wielding the cursed sword of the dead knight Achian, who ended up killing Rother himself. That's very unfortunate, because Hydra would not be able to finish the ritual. She's gonna be forced to cancel it as a swarm of undead invade the place. The fighting ghost eventually vanishes as he cannot keep up physically in this realm because he's being fought over in his realm as well. Coltas eventually gets overrun and they are forced to escape. Not without empty hands, however, because they gathered a lot of information. But this adventure is gonna conclude with the rise of the dead in the area of the Odovaya village here up north. So the characters will eventually fall back to the area of the clans, but they know that the horde of knights, of dead knights and undead, is taking over the north. With this, I'm gonna play one last scene in this fleeing action. This would be the conclusion of it. And I'm gonna leave that to a random prompt. That's a 5, which reflects the world aspect one more time. And that's a 7, which is to choose or reroll a world aspect. And I guess as they come back, the characters are gonna spot that the Queen Corinthia and the Ambrian forces are already marching towards this region. That opens up for a very interesting follow-up of political repercussions, but I'm gonna add the miniature of Queen Corinthia coming with her. Like herself, probably not, but at least someone representing Queen Corinthia herself is arriving in this area. So the characters are gonna eventually have to deal and share what happened in the north of the Triad village near the Davokar forest, where they lost control of the cursed sword of the knight Ahyan, who in goodwill tried to keep the forces of the undead beyond, but he failed to do so even at the price of being cursed. And with that, my friends, concluding this short adventure of Symbaroum. I have lots to think about and keep improving Plot Unfolding Machine to be more easygoing when it comes to figuring out how the plot unfolds, but I'm so far pretty comfortable and satisfied with how the adventure unfolded so far. If you liked it, let me know. Let's stay in touch and looking forward to future games. Bye bye.